Before going to directly understand measurement and evaluation, directly I would like to go to some basic dimensions where we can understand how this assessment and evaluation works. That later on we can bring these things into the measurement, understanding of measurement together. For now, say there are few dimensions which are very important before, even without going in depth theoretical details and all. Some very basic common things we have to we can get the first dimension is timing. Timing can be one dimension where the difference between assessment assessment and evaluations occurs. Assessment, the timing of assessment and the timing of evaluations are different. So like this, other dimensions like focus of measurement, here measurement comes up, but we'll discuss later on. The next dimension is relationship between the administrator and the recipient. This is one of the dimension where we can clearly differentiate between the assessment and evaluation, then its findings, and then after the use, how people use the findings of assessment and the finding of evaluations are different. And another dimension is modifiability of the criteria, that is dynamicity of the principles involved in assessment and evaluation. Another one is the standard of measurement. Again, here measurement is come up, and another one is relationship between the different objects to whom this assessments is conducted, the evaluation is conducted. That is another dimension. So if we make a table, you can make a table here. I'm referring to one of my book. Here this particular brief differentiation was summarized, but this detailed comparison was given by Dan Apple in 1998. So the assessment, one column you can make the assessment, another column you can make evaluation, and in the middle of these two columns you can make dimensions, so that common dimensions where on this the different criteria of dimensions where these two actually assessment and evaluations works. So you can make a table by listening to me. At the same time, anyway, I am going to show you on paper to show timing in case of assessment and evaluation. In case of assessment, timing, it's a formative, which means always is an ongoing to improve learning. Learning is one aspect, and if we talk about life science, in the context of life science, let's discuss later on contextualizing into the life science pedagogy. So here in timing, in case of assessment, it is always in the ongoing modality is always ongoing, which is called formative, and another in evaluation, the timing is periodical. There are junctions, stoppages are there, and the process there's particular stoppage points are mainly referral point for evaluation. So the timing is a periodical. That's how here they are also called as summative assessment, and summative assessment is equal to evaluation. And another dimension is that is focus of measurement. Focus of measurement in case of here in assessment, come to the next row of the table. This is process oriented, where it does focus measurement. It focus on process, how learning is happening, how learning is going on. This is the major focus area of measurement. And then in case of evaluation, it's what has been learned. So in case of focus of measurement, one is how the learning process is happening, and in case of evaluation, how much learning has happened. And in case of another third dimension, that is in the part of administrator, the, you know how assessment and evaluations, the relationship with say if I am an administrator or I am a recipient, how does it if in this condition, if I am in assessment, if I am in evaluation, how does it work? So it's in case of assessment, if I am the administrator and I'm doing assessment work, my entire thought process, my entire input process, working process will be a reflective one. So reflective one is a very beautiful concept. That's why in modern learning process, the reflective learning has given too much very much emphasized in constructivist approach. Reflective thinking is very important, even being as a teacher, as an administrator, as a student. So facilitator have to give more opportunity to become a reflective thinking, and administrator have to give enough opportunity to have a reflective thinking among the facilitator, the teacher. So next fourth point, fourth dimension is about the finding, and how do we use these findings, in what pattern we utilize these findings. So in the same table what I have been talking about, this is in the fourth row. So finding, it is more kind of diagnostic. Yeah, I remember that day some of you mentioned that the assessment is more kind of diagnostic. Actually, if we go in detail, it is not about only diagnostic. This is particularly about why we talk about diagnostic, because it assists in the process actually. Otherwise, prognostic comes up, diagnostic comes up, and then assessment for learning comes up. Many things are there. So, here you can say that it is a diagnostic in nature, or prognostic in nature, and formative in nature. But where how we use the finding in case of finding of measurement, in case of evaluation, it is judgmental for making this so-called screening process. Some people say that in social sciences discriminating in nature, but yeah, its significance is there. We can discuss later on. So, and the next one is about the nature of its dynamicity. So assessment, it's very much dynamic nature. Assessment is very much dynamic in nature, where evaluation have a very rigid kind of its rule and regulation, so-called criteria. So in case of that day during video conference, I tried to mention that even on, I think even on my radio podcast, I tried to mention that this evaluation, yeah, I recollect it during video conference. I try to emphasize you that evaluation have to have a very scientific in nature. A strict criteria is there. Must have evidence base. You must have a scientific evidence. You must have a proof out of the findings. You must have a very authentic nature of concrete nature of criteria. So evaluation, those are the things how this evaluation becomes very rigid against assessment. Assessment is very flexible and flexible, though one can't say that it's not scientific, because in case of studying learner behavior, and studying how learning takes place. Many variables are there where only concretizations only doesn't work. Many times many abstract things are there in the area of which variables. So you have that is how the evaluation becomes. Once I remember in a book it was mentioned that evaluation, one of the product of evaluation system is examination, and examination was defined that in that particular book as a necessary evil. But today, if we are real facilitator, and we must support a system where evaluation or assessment both should not be a necessary evil. It must be always an assisting and supporting hand to everyone, to the facilitator, to the students, and all the administrator too. So in case of its finding, the quality of its finding, that day in video class also I reflected that evaluation, the byproduct of evaluation is more of the kind till today. It is by nature its outcome is in competitive in nature, comparison in nature. So comparison divide better from the worse. So in case of social science, it helps in making a hierarchical. Actually, in a broader sense, this is a way of how classifications takes place, but how the in different kind of aspect how people do perceive, that is the yes, important part. So normally in biological science, in taxonomical study, we do have a very well structured classification is there, and that classification is very important, and that can be done only by a well observed evaluation process. There we cannot say that so that is making a hierarchy, because that is making to understand each identity of each object or its living things in case of plants or animals. So if we remember during our school practice, preschool practice, I try to mention about the process skill. So one of the very important process skill is that is classification and identification. So in these two, classification and identification, obviously this evaluative process is very important. A well evaluative process, without a well evaluative process, one can never do justice with the classification and identification process. This is about the life science and any naturalistic thing, but in case of social science, there are lots of things we can discuss more on. But where in case of learning and human beings relationship and all, in the same context, instead of evaluation, if we consider assessment, it will be more kind of cooperativeness in nature, collaborative in nature. This is how these two are important, and both are important actually. But in case of learners, for the benefit of learners, in the process of learners, we must give importance to the assessment. Yes, that doesn't mean that in case of evaluation is not important. Evaluation do have its own importance and its own place. So here I think you might have noted down Dan Apple 1998. You can search his name from the internet or Google Scholar like that. I would like to sincerely discuss here one thing, that in most of the if you browse in the internet about this assessment and evaluation and all, you will find most of the examples are given through the example of doctor and pathology and relationship and all, but please try to understand that. Please try to contextualize on your own situations, because most of the measurement process and assessment processes also come off originated from many other scientific study, not only the education system. So if you go through the online, normally you follow the HTML browsing from the website. If you don't check the context area, you'll find example most of the kind of medical research. Instead of doing that, please try to find more contextual kind of example in the learning process. So my dear friends, see, I have become a habit of saying, even in radio you might have heard, because I have a habit of interacting with you, and without you it becomes a quite tidy for me, and I used to be very jolly kind in the classroom, but today I'm more kind of serious, but actually not like that. It's night time, and I have not been quite well in terms of my health. Please keep yourself quite healthy, and let us go to some paperwork so that we can understand more. Remember that if whenever you browse about assessment evaluation, please try to find materials, contextualize materials in terms of learning, not the medical research one. Say for example, in case of formative assessment in your syllabus, formative assessment is about the years of formation of a child, from childhood to different phases of the child's life or student's life. Maybe in one particular session, maybe in one particular class. So say whenever once the class started and we talk to each other, just talking to each other and giving a sign that yeah, I am there for you and you are there for me. So originally, etymologically, this is the only meaning of assessment. This is the most beautiful thing, how an assessment must be defined. But if you go to definition and all, collection of data, this and that, analyzing many things are there, but assessment means just being with you being with me, and saying that yes, I'm there for you, and you are saying that you are there for me. At the same time, in assessment, the beautiful part of the assessment is that okay, I am there for you, and every day I'll become a better person there for me and for you, and you say that you will be like similarly like that. So this is how there is no competition between the other individuals in assessment, but yeah, competition is like that. I am myself is competitor of myself, and like tomorrow morning I want to wake up with a better health. Okay, so let's go to some paperwork and discussion again. Thank you. Be there, huh? So my dear friends, in continuation with this, I would like to share one thing. Oh, sorry, little disturbance. So, if we see measurement, evaluation, and then so yeah, it just throws up. Measurement, evaluation, evaluation, assessment, examination, test. Like this, many coexisting terminologies are there. These are coexisting terminologies, and if we can go here, then what is like a test, and what is like examination, what is like assessment, evaluation, and a measurement. But in previous understanding, it was like what? It was like measurement and evaluation, and inside these two, all this exists. It was like this, or measurement was part of evaluation, or evaluation is part of measurement. Many questions comes up, and some people still think that assessment is again part of evaluation, or like assessment and evaluation are of a similar kind of things when things come up about summative assessment. So lots of things are there where we can discuss, especially when examination comes and the comparison of test comes, and most of the people think that test is like just like more popular in like cricket test match, okay, but it is not about the test match. Instead of that, let's come back here to see how these things are did. So measurement is any kind of expression, any kind of expression in numbers. So-called numbers means in terms of numericals, and we know that numericals can be converted into numerical things can be converted into words, and many words are there which can be converted into numericals. But there are certain conditions also comes up where numerical things cannot convert into words, and words cannot convert into numbers. But somehow up to this expression in numbers, that is in numericals, for any kind of process, if any process and that is expressed through numbers or numericals, they are basically actually the fundamental of measurement. In unique, we can say that this is a unique identical characteristic of the word measurement, and we use this because numbers are a symbol of logical logics. That's how many times these numbers indicate some sort of common understanding. Like say when we say a child have received a 99%, and automatically we convert this into a kind of brilliant, this is how the numbers, numerical things convert into words. But when we say a brilliant, and again come back around, this approximation is there. So there is a strong relationship between these numbers and words. And in other sense, actually this is also a language. Numbers are language, and this is so one is communicable language, one is logical language. That's how. So evaluation, if we come back here, evaluation, so in this relationship, whether evaluation is a part of measurement or measurement is a part of evaluation, sometimes it seems that asking such a question doesn't have much meaning. Instead of that, if we try to understand, yes, evaluation itself is a big concept. Evaluation itself is a big concept. Evaluation is a big concept by which on, and a system in evaluation, a system, and evaluation have its own characteristics, and evaluation have its own principles. Therefore, evaluation do have its own identity. So when we go through these characteristics and the principles of evaluation, and we really will be able to understand the identity, what is evaluation exactly. So in one of my introduction there, so I try to express that there are certain characteristic of evaluation and principles of evaluation I have given to you in your Google Classroom raw material. You can go there, otherwise someday we can discuss. So whenever these things, characteristics and a particular concept do have certain characteristics and principles, when these things take part in a particular process, when it takes part in a particular process, that process, say for example a system, a dynamic system, when it takes part in a dynamic system, it can take part in a way that in this dynamic system or this process, whenever there is a against time, whenever there comes a moment of moment of judgment, whenever there comes a moment of taking judgment, whenever there is a moment comes up of taking judgment, if this moment in a dynamic system, in a process, when evaluation is a concept, when the evaluation take part in this dynamic system, there is a moment, a certain moments comes up where moment of taking judgment happen, and if this moment of taking judgment happen, and if it does express in numbers, then what these numbers is, whatever this experience express in numbers there, that means particularly if we want to express this judgment, or this particular experience, we have two ways. Either we can express this into number or numerical, either we can express in the form of like cool. Say for example, the guy was cool and like very kind. So see, there one way that we can express in this process, one way is there we can express a cool, kind, intelligent, smart, certain things, or we can express into 99%, 75%, 85%, so on, like that. So these particular concept involved in a system, and it have a capacity to take express something for a particular moment, a moment of taking a judgment. That moment is expressed in numbers, then we call that particular in together, that is called measurement and evaluation. Here, if that expressed in terms of non-numbers, in terms of these words, that will go to another phases where assessment will comes up. But this is how the beauty of this thing. Here I see I'm extending here in this process, especially in useful, this particular process is very useful in pedagogy and scientific study, that it helps in process skill, that particularly at the part of here, in this portion, what kind of process skill will be involved here? If observation, and when a moment comes up to decide something, identification, identification. Then this identification can further lead to classification. So a biology teacher or a biology student must be very thorough about this particular thing, why we are studying these measurement, evaluation and assessment and all. This is see, these things, this concept involve to understand the facilitator self, to understand the learner self, to understand the relationship between the facilitator and the learner self. At the same time, the same concept can be implemented into understanding of life science, where life science learning of life science taking place, certain process do takes place, as usually learning in the whenever learning happens, that process happens. So yes, now you must be very clear about one thing, that how these evaluation and measurements go in hand at the same time, how these two are different from each other, how evaluation have its own identity, how measurement have its own identity, and how this concept is this much. Now I'm not going to assessment examination test, I am going in the next talk. This much itself is very very helpful to understand. I think you can try to understand that the same concept can be well processed into your mind, to reflect yourself that as a facilitator, at the same time as how the learning happens, evaluation and measurements and these things. So you must be very clear about this portion. Okay, I'm coming back to another portion. For right now, let us stop here.